Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of domain and range. This is standard A.2A in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 22 of the 2021 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have part of a linear function g graphed here. We need to find the inequalities that best describe the domain and range, and unfortunately these two terms are not defined for us on our mathematics chart or reference materials, anything. So we need to come into this problem knowing those two vocabulary terms. So let's define them real quick. So the domain is the set of all, now this is going to be important, independent variable values. All right, so the independent values are the ones that we start with when we're trying to figure out how to work a function. And most of the time they are represented with an x. All right, so the x values. Every once in a while you get a word problem and they replace it with a letter R or K or L or something like that. But for the most part they're going to be our x values. Our domain is the set of all independent values for that particular function. So the range, if the domain is going to be set of all independent values, then you guessed it, our range is going to be the set of all dependent variable values. And so those are typically going to be our y values. Now in this case it's not even our y values, because take a look at our inequalities. We've got x and we've got g of x. So in this case, right, it's going to be our g of x. Sometimes it's f of x. And then sometimes it's just a random letter if it's a word problem. So I've seen our y values be called many different things, but really the range is going to be our dependent variable values. And how we keep these two straight, one way would be, think of it alphabetically. D comes before R. Alphabetically, y comes after x. So you're going to have domain goes with x and the R goes with y. So looking at our graph, we visually then need to figure out what our domain and range is. So the domain, the set of all independent x values. So we are going to be looking at just the x's, left to right. Okay, so I'm going to kind of build it like this. I'm going to say x is greater than, and then what's my smallest value? -7. And then x is less than, what's my largest value? 6. Now, second, after we get our two numbers, right, our -7 and 6, is we need to look at the dots. And you notice these are closed dots. So when we've got closed dots, that means that we are actually including the -7 and the 6. When you just do greater than and less than, you do everything up to that number, but you don't actually include that number. But since those are closed, both of them are closed, we actually need to make it greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, because they're closed. So that's actually the correct way to write the domain there. If we didn't include it, it would be more an open. So we would kind of do it like this. It would be open and it would be pretty clear that it's an open dot. They won't try to trick you with making it the opening so tiny that it kind of looks closed. So that's our domain. So we're looking at f, right? F is just not going to work. It looks like they kind of flip the domain and range. G looks kind of close, but take a look. It doesn't have equal to, so that's not going to work. And then we're switching, once again, H and J, we're switching the domain and range, so that doesn't work. So right now J is the only one that looks like it works. Let's check our range. We're going to use the y-axis, but it's really g of x. So we're looking from bottom to top. So it is going to be greater than -4. It's going to be less than, it goes up to 5. Once again, it is still those same closed circles. So it really needs to be greater than or equal to -4. Then it needs to be less than or equal to 5. And this is going to be our range. And as you can see, the answers, the wrong answers flip those two, and then they also just made it greater than or less than without an equal to. Our answer here is J.